Okay, YouTube, really quick. I decided to make this video on this 2007 Nissan Frontier. It's a 4.0 V6 engine. Purchased it not too long ago. Did some modifications to it, some work to it. And ever since I purchased it, I did notice there was this noise in the engine. Well, what appeared to be in the engine. Every time I would give it, or I should say, every time I'd fire up the truck, everything was perfectly fine. However, if I give it a little bit of gas, I would hear a buzzing noise, almost what appears to sound like a bad fuel pump, if you get my drift. So it's kind of like a bzzz, and it's very, very annoying. I looked up so many videos on YouTube, and everybody was indicating that any sort of noise usually is related to the time chain issue that these trucks normally have at a certain amount of miles. In this case, it was not my time chain. By the way, another way to detect the noise that I had was I would close my hood, and let's just say I'd leave the hood open. I turn off I'd fire up the engine, and I would hear the noise here, but I couldn't tell where it was coming from. Now, normally, if it's from the engine, you would hear the buzz here somewhere, and it just wasn't here, but it appeared to, the sound appeared to come from here. So it was traveling from underneath, I believe. So what I did is I went underneath the truck, and I noticed that if I were to close the hood, I noticed that underneath the truck, the sound would travel, and everything would point at the transmission right underneath there. I would hear the buzzing just zzz, right here underneath, and it was driving me nuts. So what I did is I took it to a few places. Few shops don't even know what they're doing. Most of these people, I mean, they try to help, but they just, they can't figure it out. One guy said it was the timing chain. He needed to replace that, and he was trying to charge me $1,600. Another guy says, well, it sounds like a transmission problem. We're probably going to have to rebuild it. These transmissions are CVT. Nissan messed up, and they did CVT transmissions on these trucks, and there's a ton of problems with them, and that's how they sound, and it's getting older and blah, 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 which it turns out ought to be BS. These trucks do not have a CVT transmission. It's the Pathfinder model that does. I believe there might be the newer Frontiers. I'm not sure, but I know this is a 2007, and there is no CVT transmission. It's a straight out 5-speed automatic. But these are just the examples of the people at the shops that try to troubleshoot it. They probably knew what the real problem was, but in this case, they just wanted money. I'm not sure. I'm not gonna, say that was the case. Perhaps they really didn't know, but if they didn't know, they shouldn't have suggested that I switch out the timing chain. That was clearly not gonna fix the problem. So I don't know what their thoughts were. Okay, they fixed the timing chain, the noise is still there. What are they gonna do? Charge me? Now I have a free timing chain. I don't know. Regardless, I wanted to do this video again because I found out what the problem was. So again, fire up the engine perfectly fine. Idling perfectly fine, right? I would give it some gas, and all of a sudden, the minute I give it gas, I would get this loud bzzz, this noise, weeping noise, buzzy noise, whatever you want to call it. And of course, if the hood was closed, I would hear it mainly on the bottom. Every time I'd go to some sort of drive-through, I would hear it because of the echo. Obviously, when you're pulling up in the drive-through, the wall's right next to you, and it was completely annoying. So if anybody is having this problem, this is the issue, believe it or not. So I thought about, I've been doing maintenance on this truck, and I've been doing everything to it ever since I bought it. I bought new rims. I did a bunch of stuff to it. So I thought to myself, the only thing I haven't done is a transmission flush. So I decided to go to the dealer, and I decided to get the original Nissan Matic J oil, or transmission fluid, I should say. And I came home and I drained it, which is very easy to do. It's underneath, that's a whole different video, but it's a very easy process. You undo the drain plug, you make sure you get a new crush washer. You put that back in. In my case, by the way, prior to deciding to do it, I came in, I checked it first. The dipstick is right here. In case you didn't know, this is your dipstick. So when I took out the dipstick and I looked at it, transmission fluid is supposed to be pink. This one was not pink. It was almost like a semi-burnt engine oil. So basically I knew that it was dead and it was done, so I needed to switch it out. So when I decided to switch it out, I could either had gone to O'Reilly's or whatnot. So I went to the dealership, got the original stuff. It is a Matic J transmission fluid, not a Matic S. I believe the Matic S is a synthetic version of the Matic J. However, according to the Nissan dealer guy, these trucks is critical that you put in the Matic J, not the S. Don't let somebody substitute it. Unless Nissan decides to do it or hand you those bottles, I would not let some kid at O'Reilly's or AutoZone decide on the fate of your transmission. It's critical that it's a Matic J. So having said all that, I came home, I drained it, put the new one in, problem fixed. Yep, problem fixed. It is incredible that the transmission fluid was the problem. Engine is beautiful. No noises, no rattles, no nothing. If I give it gas.
So obviously you've got that following.
No more noise. At all. Completely gone. So I had this conversation with the Nissan dealer prior to doing the fluid change, and I was so happy
Kevin again.
that this fixed the issue that I called the guy back and I said, are you freaking kidding me? Are you gonna tell me that the transmission fluid on these trucks can determine whether or not you're gonna have a normal running truck in terms of noises or anything like that? Because again, guys, I'm telling you, it was terrible. And again, people wanted to fix my timing chain over it. And what was it? It was 60 bucks worth of transmission fluid. So again, there's nothing on YouTube on this. And I'm sure there's a lot of mechanics out there that can probably use this. Believe it or not, Nissan Frontiers, make sure your transmission fluid is the correct one inside of that transmission, because what I'm guessing happened here, and again, the conversation I had with the Nissan fella was that I purchased this truck and whoever did the transmission flush or drain the last time, they might have used a different transmission fluid. And because they used a different transmission fluid, the transmission was creating a noise inside of it. I am not sure how that noise was coming about. I am not sure if it was friction. I have no clue. However, what I do know is I drained it out, put Matic J, original Nissan, and I'm not promoting Nissan. What I'm saying is, in my case, I bought original Nissan fluid. You can buy Castro, buy anything else you want. Just make sure it's the correct one for these trucks, because if you don't, you might have the same problem and you might not be as handy, and you take it to a shop and somebody screws you out of $1,800. They perhaps do a job that you really didn't need, all in the effort of making some money when all they had to do was do the transmission change. And in fact, they might even know about it. That might be the only thing that they do. Or they might do a transmission and whatever other job they're saying that you need. In your case, you might not need it. So anyway, I hope this helps. 2007 Nissan Frontier, buzzing, weeping noise coming from what appeared to be the engine. If you would close the engine hood, the noise would travel down in the bottom. It was a transmission issue. You would hear it clearly that the transmission was creating a buzzy noise. And in this case, again, guys, fluid. That's all that was. Okay, change your transmission fluid. If that doesn't help, then maybe you do have a problem, but at least do that first, because you would hate to pay all that money for nothing. All right, so hope that helps, and see you on the next one.